It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two. Let's do this.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club. I am your host, Michael McMillan, and with me usually is your co-host, Bryce Johnson. But unfortunately, in an unprecedented clubhouse event, Bryce could not be here today. Everything's cool. Just some stuff came up and he could not make it. I swear to you, this is not the beginning of a clubhouse breakup. Instead, though, we have our trusty sound designer and engineer, Riley Bray, sitting in the co-host chair to fill in for Bryce today. Hi, Riley.
Hey, how's it going? Hi, everybody.
Hey, there's those smooth, dulcet tones that we never hear because you're just listening and giving thumbs up all the time.
Mostly thumbs up.
Hey, we really appreciate your support and your hard work.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm going to thank you up top instead of the end of the show.
I like it. I've moved up and waiting in the wings.
I know. You know, it's funny because I feel like more recently you've been making vocal appearances on the show.
Just little ones.
Now I think you've fully made a coup.
This has been my plan all along. I'll build the clubhouse.
It is your place. Also with us today is a very special guest. He is a science fiction writer and a comic book author. You may know his work from recent DC Comics. He did a 2-issue arc on Flash, or The Flash, depending on how you like to approach your super speedster. And he's written for Superman. He has a new book coming up from Vault called Wasted Space. And he has just published a really great science fiction book called Black Star Renegades. Everybody, please put your hands together for MICHAEL MORECI.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
What's up, dude?
Nothing.
So you're in town from Chicago right now.
I am,
to promote your new book.
Yeah, one day only, very limited engagement.
That makes you sound like a very busy, popular guy.
I have wife, kids.
Well,
so minus the popular.
So you're saying they're... I thought you were going to say they were your number one fans.
They are. There's been a lot of... My 6-year-old's been making a lot of Black Star Renegades fan fiction.
Oh, that's so awesome. So wait, real quick, because we'll get into it, but what's the book about?
So Black Star Renegades is a space adventure in the spirit of Star Wars or Guardians of the Galaxy, Flash Gordon, stuff like that. It is about a young guy named Cade who comes in possession of a super powerful weapon, kind of like, Arthurian legend. And he
like a gun.
The super gun. Yeah.
There's a lot of guns in Arthurian legend.
He finds an Uzi. And he's like, I'm gonna start some shit.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a like more of a laser sword.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is beginning to sound a little familiar.
But yeah, no, he's he's like the last person that should have it. He's the absolute wrong choice. But if he doesn't figure out what to do with it, then the evil kingdom, not empire kingdom, will take over the galaxy.
There's a difference. One has an emperor, one has a king.
Exactly.
I'm reading it right now, and I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, thanks.
And I kind of thought, oh, this is cool. It's almost as if in Star Wars, Han Solo would have ended up with the Force instead of Luke Skywalker. It's that's a very loose interpretation, but I was like, once I saw what you're doing, I was like, I don't know where it's going yet. I'm only 3 chapters in. I just started reading it, but I kind of like that take that the guy that you don't think should have it has it. I mean, Han Solo's a good guy.
Yeah, he's fine.
But I was just trying to find an analogy for it. But
no, the other guy.
Yeah, the other guy. Yeah. No, it's great. So congratulations. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
So you are obviously a science fiction fan, fantasy fan. What kind of stuff did you grow up reading and devouring?
A lot of it, we'll probably talk about this a lot, but Star Wars, the movies when I was young, then I graduated to the Zahn novels start coming out when I was like 10, so it was like
Timothy Zahn,
Thrawn.
heir to the trilogy, or heir to the trilogy. I mean, it essentially
he was the heir of the trilogy
for a while.
Yeah,
the heir to the God damn. This is what happens. I'm just concerned that Bryce isn't here and he hates us now. I can't talk anymore.
We can edit this out, but we probably won't.
Do not.
No.
The Heir to the Empire trilogy,
Right.
The Thrawn trilogy.
Yeah, exactly.
That was big. I read that in high school. I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
They're finally making episodes 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, that's what it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's like always lived in my head to be the continuation. Then many more books, many more Star Wars books followed.
Yeah. And you've written for StarWars.com, right? Haven't
Yeah.
you?
Mm-hmm.
And you've written pieces on Star Wars for Tor.com and or am I mixing those websites up?
Nope. No, I do both. I do all the stuff all the straight news. I do at StarWars.com, then the opinions go on Tor.
Right, exactly. The fan rants go on Tor.
Yeah, exactly.
So were you excited or disappointed when Disney took over? I mean, no one's going to listen to this from Lucasfilm, so you don't have to worry. But when Disney bought it and they were throwing out the old EU, the extended universe, to make way for new stories and a new canon, how did you feel about that? Were you excited or were you bummed?
A little of both, because on one hand I was bummed because there's a lot of great stories in there, but on the other hand I was like, I get it, because there's a lot of stories that weren't great.
Yeah, and if they by episode 7 Chewbacca was dead, would be dead based on the canon. Luke and Leia would have already had 3 kids, one of whom had already turned to the dark side and died.
Right.
I think by 30 years after the timeline. Riley, did you ever get into any of the extended universe, the old Star Wars canon, or were you too cool?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I was not cool.
Oh, really?
No, very much
Man,
not
you're
cool.
fooling everybody, man.
It's an all
wrong
smoke
idea
and
about
mirrors
you.
here. It's a full charade.
The voice throws you. It's just a very cool voice.
I mean, you look like a real rock and roller, dude.
Well, I found that later, but
Right.
I definitely grew up on the nerd side of life.
Maybe for this episode, we'll post a picture of you when you were a kid. We'll put it up on Instagram and see and we'll let the audience vote what a nerd you were.
Okay, fair.
So, did you ever read the Thrawn trilogy?
I didn't get that far.
Oh.
No, I was more of like a Philip K. Dick. Kurt Vonnegut kind of guy as far as the sci-fi reading. And Kurt Vonnegut's a little borderline sci-fi, but fantasy-ish.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I didn't go that deep on Star Wars. I was also more of a Lord of the Rings Hobbit kind of person.
That kind of nerd.
Yeah,
real Middle Earth nerd.
Yeah. It was like the crunchy sort of granola nerd, not the space nerd.
I remember when I first read The Lord of the Rings as a kid. I had just read The Hobbit, and then I tried to read Lord of the Rings, and I got freaked out by the ring wraiths. That stuff really freaked me out. And then I got really bored by all the dwarf songs. So I never actually read, this is a confession, I never got through the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy until the movies came out. And then I watched the movies and I loved them. So I finally went back and read the original
Fair enough.
works. But
Never too late.
I'm a little ashamed to admit that. I think I like the movies more.
I like the movies way more.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tolkien, listen, we're in trouble. I mean, when it comes to world building and just epic storytelling, obviously no one comes close, but I do think his writing drags a little bit.
There's a lot of dwarf songs.
Yeah, I prefer the structure of The Hobbit. Which
the Hobbit was like nailed it. The Hobbit was just like a straight adventure.
Yeah,
and then when
more of a kid's book. And
if you think that you should
now The Hobbit, I like the book more than the movies.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever look into the Cimmerillion, the prehistory?
Oh boy,
I own it. It's on my shelf. Every now and then I crack it, and then I close it, and I run to the other end of the room.
It's like reading the beginning of the Bible, like the begat sort of things. It's just like, all right.
Yeah, a lot. I think there's like if there's 2.7 million copies sold, there's like 17 copies read.
That sounds about accurate, yeah.
So, with all this fantasy and science fiction growing up, did you ever have an attraction, romantic or otherwise, let's be honest, to the paranormal?
I did, yeah. I mean, I was a huge X-Files fan. My first, I guess you could say my breakout, quote unquote breakout, because I don't know if that's even happened yet, but was Hoax Hunters, which was like basically Mythbusters meets X-Files.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
and what's that? I haven't heard of this.
That is Hoax Hunters. It was a series. It was with Image for like 15
This is something
issues.
you wrote.
Yeah.
That's
myself
awesome.
and Steve Seeley.
Oh, dude, I should have known that before.
I thought that was on the show. I thought we were getting
That's so cool. Yeah, I guess we should tell everybody how we actually know each other. We met during the DC New Talent Showcase talent workshop. What was it called? We basically went through a program at DC Comics together, and we've only known each other as little squares over Skype.
Yeah.
And now we're meeting for the first time. So
exactly.
You've done a little bit of writing for DC. I've done a very little bit of writing for DC since then.
I think my writing just have to be basically our writing is all in drawers. And they don't know what is in what drawer, and they open up mine. They're like, "Oh, it's Moreci's. Okay, let's throw it in.
Yeah.
Let's press print and shove it out into stores."
That's nice. I got to get some more stuff in those drawers. But we're still in the DC family, and you know what? You might see some more work from us in the near future. Who knows?
Maybe.
So X-Files, and so Hoax Hunters. Sorry.
Yeah.
What topics did you cover in that comic book? Like what hoaxes did you hunt?
We did the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
We did. I'm lacking the name. The Wisconsin one. With the gnomes.
The Goblin.
No,
not the Hopkinsville. That's Kentucky.
No, the Haunchyville.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't know if I know about this.
Yeah, Haunchyville is like kind of woodland kind of monsters. It's a little vague, but
okay.
So we went with that. That was one of the arcs that we did. We did. What was the first? I said Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
Mothman.
Yeah, we haven't done him
appearance.
on the show yet. He's definitely coming up soon. He's a heavy hitter.
Yeah, Mothman's a tough one.
Yeah.
We used Mothman very limited. Very limited capacity.
Mothman tends to overshadow everything that he's in. He's a commanding presence.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So have you ever had any paranormal experiences yourself?
Sort of.
Okay.
That's the start. That's where
takes them.
take from there.
That's a little crack in the eggshell, and we're going to make an omelet out of this.
I'm be crying by the end of the show.
Well, tell us what happened.
So it's weird because, I have such a specific memory of this, but it's so, kind of like a non... climatic thing that happened.
Okay.
So basically,
they tend to be. That's the thing, is a lot of these stories frustratingly have no endings to them. The sighting will happen, people will encounter it, and then you never get any answers, which is why they're so appealing in the first place.
That's what makes them intriguing.
Yeah.
Is that they aren't explainable. You can't just put a bow on it and
that's
this
true.
is what that was.
Yeah.
It was a ghost for sure, 100%.
So you don't know.
And we
what
caught
happened
it.
to me then. You don't know.
No, not yet.
That's why I thought you guys gonna have answers.
Well, let's hear about it and we'll find out.
So basically, it was one night. I used to spend a lot of time with my uncle's place. He had two boys that were right around the same age as me, my cousins, and I was going to bed one night.
And you're about how old right now? I mean, not right now, but in the story right now.
I was probably 9, somewhere around there. So, and this happened recurring, at his house. I never would see this at my house. Every time I'd go to sleep, and I would see this apparition, ghost, whatever, standing in the doorway. And it was looked like almost like an old timey carnival person.
Whoa!
Had a beard, and it was kind of like a tannish sepia kind of color.
Yep.
And never said anything, just scared shit. I mean, I'd close my eyes. And I'd open them up, and he'd still be there, just standing in the hallway.
Whoa.
And then,
oh, my God.
Yeah, and it happened every time I went there.
Wait,
I'd
what?
spend the night, yeah.
How many times would you say in total?
I don't know, 5 or 6 probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Did you talk
never
to
at
him
my
about
house.
this or talk to
He was
adults about it?
No.
You never brought it up with anybody in the house?
No, never.
Are you sure they're
I think
just-
this is the first time I've actually even talked about
What?
this. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, wow. This has just been waiting to come out.
It's an exclusive.
Let us know if you need any tissue.
I might.
Maybe there was an old carnival barker living in the basement that you didn't know about that was coming up for a nice glass of milk.
The Moreci's do have a rich carny folk history.
Do they really?
No.
Oh, man, I would have been so excited. But so wait, when you say he looks like a carnival guy, what do you mean? How was he dressed? From a different era?
Different era. It looked almost like a 1920s almost.
Okay.
Kind of more of a vintage carnival, kind of like a... that kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say huckster, but that that kind of get up. You know? I can't. It's hard to describe.
Did he have a coat with tails,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and he had a beard,
high-waisted
a
pleated
curly
pants? Yeah,
probably curly beard. It was not like a grizzlyish beard, but a really nice groomed, look soft.
Right.
Curly white beard.
Okay.
Did he
had a
have
hat, kind of cowboyish hat?
Did he have an emotional presence to him? Was he scary? Was he sad? Was he foreboding?
No, frightening. Very frightening.
Just frightening.
Yeah.
Was he just demanding more and more absinthe because that's all I think of when I think of old-timey guys. It's just how much absinthe they can drink before they go crazy and die. That's really weird. So you have no idea. What was the history of the house? Do you know? Was it an old house?
No, just a suburban.
Whoa.
You know, what do they call it? I don't know. It's like 1.5 level. What's that called?
Like a split level. Oh, okay. Like a ranch house. Yeah. So I wonder, that's weird because we've brought this book up on the show before, but that sounds like almost like Pennywise strain, like a thing that doesn't belong in the area that it's from. Like in it, there's just a guy dressed as a clown or a creature that looks like a clown, but there's no circus in town. So I'm wondering what the carnival connection is. So out of context, in other words.
That's a good point. Yeah, I wonder.
Maybe there was like an old carnival in that field that the suburban neighborhood was built on that like burnt down. Maybe he drank so much absinthe that he knocked over an oil lamp and
the carnival,
killed everybody.
Carnival equivalent of the Indian burial ground situation.
Yeah, exactly. Gotcha. I say get under the floorboard, start digging, get a shovel, go on, see what's under there.
The carny burial ground.
Oh, yeah. There is just skeletons of sideshow freaks underneath that swimming pool.
Oh, wouldn't it be cool if we found like a skeleton of conjoined twins?
I mean, it exists. I mean, maybe not under the swimming pool at your uncle's house, but actually, I think if we found a skeleton of conjoined twins would be the furthest thing from cool.
Be some questions for your uncle.
Yeah.
These are fresh.
Yeah, and then you go into his closet and find a fake white beard and a coat with tails. That's so weird. That's strange.
Did you think it was a ghost at the time when you were a kid? Like, what did you make of it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I still think so.
You still do?
Yeah.
That was the next question.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Well, this is the thing that we tend to ask people who've, and we do it in the show when we present our topics of high strangeness. But if you had to trust your gut, your instinct, based on what you experienced, how would you contextualize what you saw?
What do you mean?
Like, okay, this is what if I had to write down on paper what it is, what I saw, a ghost, what was it?
Yeah, I guess a ghost. I mean, I guess like judging by the dress, you know, the how he looked, you know, like how he's groomed and stuff like that, it goes from like some other time that hadn't passed on to wherever we pass on to. I don't know why he would be there. You know, it's just a south suburban, you know, suburb of Chicago.
I heard they have something now called Cheetos.
That's worth sticking around for.
This is a nice pantry. Cheetos,
haunting the pantry.
Oreos, Dorados. This guy's got an appetite.
Trying to ghost eat the same Cheeto for years and years.
Still good. Riley, did you ever see any old-timey dressed people where they didn't belong?
No, I wish so badly that I had, but there's the one ghost story I told on the Lister Files. That's my only real good sort of ghost encounter. I've never really seen an apparition.
I was in a strange. It's part of a larger, weirder story that at some point, somewhere, I'm going to tell. But a number of years ago, I was staying in a giant, very old farmhouse in upstate New York, outside Albany. And this place felt like Grand Central Station at night. You just felt like there were so many entities coming in and out of that house. There were a number of us up there sleeping in different rooms, but I would turn out the light and I'd try to sleep, and it just felt like my room was full of people. It felt so haunted. And I got up in the middle of the night because the bathroom was down the hall, and when you walked out, there was this giant banister that was like a square shape that looked over like an atrium in the main entryway of the house. And as I walked out, and I was bringing my phone with me everywhere because in case I saw something, I wanted to take a picture of it. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw what looked like a woman with dark hair and a red Victorian dress walking on the other side. And I turned to look, and she was gone, but I snapped a photo, and then when I looked at the picture, there was a glowing orb in the picture where I saw the woman. But it was literally just out of the corner of my eye and my peripheral vision. But yeah, I could see like the ruffles and the shimmer of the red, and like she had a bow like on her back, and she looked like it was definitely like the Victorian era, almost like Scarlett O'Hara, that kind of dress, but it was a dark red dress.
That's awesome that you had the reflex to snap a
Yeah,
picture.
well, I tell you, I was like on alert the entire time. I was like behind my bed with camo and just my camera ready. Just be like, something going on here, man. It was crazy. That there was that whole weekend was a weird story, and maybe perhaps one day I'll tell it on this podcast. Yeah. So ghosts you're open to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What about Bigfoot?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, good. We always hear no.
It's a lot of no's on Bigfoot.
A lot of no's on Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Now,
which is kind of funny when you think about it, because you're like, afterlife, wrapping your head around that as opposed to wrapping your head around a guy with a lot of hair.
Yeah, or just some sort of
in the forest.
indigenous bipedal simian that might live in a deep areas of the forest that we can't, we haven't really caught, like a rare species.
It's hard to it's like I think we forget, like driving here. You guys were in the canyon, I'm driving up. I'm like, I've never seen any of this before in my life. Like, and there's this whole thing that didn't exist. So the idea that's like, no, sir, I've seen it all. In the woods, is there something in the woods that I don't know about? Impossible.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? Like, I didn't know about the canyons in California.
Yeah, they're right here.
It's a very.
I mean, I think they're fairly well documented, and you do live in Chicago. But I mean, you bring up a good
remains,
point. Yeah,
though,
the point remains.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, and having and being someone who's had experiences. I really think it comes down to you have to see it to believe it. And then once you see it and believe it, whatever it is, you then spend a very long period of time trying to wrap your brain around exactly what you saw. And then you end up having a podcast where you talk about it on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So
I think people are threatened by Bigfoot too, because it's another intelligent mammal, humanoid on this planet.
Right.
So.
It almost challenges our, I almost said supremacy, but that's like not a good term to use.
You don't
right
want to
now.
be a Bigfoot supremacist. It's not good. It's a bad look, really.
Man, these Bigfoot, they're trying to take my power.
But yeah, no, that's...
it is a little threatening when you're like, oh, wait a minute. We could have been just living off nature this whole time and had big old feet and strong arms. And instead, we're, addicted to our iPhones. Please keep listening to this podcast.
It's just
available on iTunes.
Yeah, no, it is interesting. I mean, there is that sort of belief that, like, nope, man, it's a dominant species, and he has dominion over the earth, and he can kill and take over anything that he wants, dominate the earth any way he wants.
Meanwhile, the cephalopods are just waiting. They're just waiting for that moment. They'll be dead any day now. We're coming out.
Well, those and the lizard people that live in the hollow earth, they're waiting too. I mean, they're really...
Well, they had their turn
actually,
already.
they've designed this whole thing to collapse just this way, with the help of the Illuminati, of course. And then, so Ghost, Bigfoot, what about UFOs?
Oh, totally.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. That's a slam dunk.
Right. Do you think that there could be galaxies out there like the one in your book or in stories like Star Wars or Battlestar Galactica, where there's just a whole epic style fantasy going on?
Now I can think, and now as you say it, all I can think of is like, have you ever heard the rap that's like some about Star Wars? It looks like the future, but it's really the past.
No, I haven't.
It's so funny. It's the bad lip syncing people who do
awesome.
it. And so I think I want to be like, Michael, no, that's the past.
No, I know it is the past, but I'm saying it could be. It's our past. I get it. No, but
maybe.
But it's in a galaxy far. It's also the past, but it's in a galaxy far, far away.
So like Lightspeed, it's like the future or something.
Now you're really blowing my mind.
I don't know what that sentence meant at all.
No, I know what you mean, though, man. No, but I don't know. I just wonder if like other life in other galaxies or even on other planets on this galaxy would even look recognizable to us as life.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. the interesting question I think we all have. It's like the odds of that happening, like the odds of us happening are so slim to the odds of us happening again. Oh, man. I don't
Again,
know.
but better.
Hopefully.
Maybe.
With laser swords.
Well,
Yeah.
I know of at least one alien species that visited this planet in 1989, and I'm going to tell you guys all about that right after this break.
Hey guys, Bryce Johnson here. Each week we post exclusive photos with our guests and great visual aids on Instagram at Bigfoot Collectors Club and on Facebook and Twitter at Bigfoot_C Club. Check them out. You don't want to miss them. Thanks for listening.
All right, it's time for High Strangeness. Now, this is a story that I had not actually heard before I started doing research for our episode with Jen Kirkman when we talked about the Solway Firth spaceman. This is a story, and it's a really strange one, of the Voronezh alien landing. This story takes place in Voronezh, Russia on September 27th, 1989, on the eve of the collapse of the Soviet Union. Now, in 1989, the population of Voronezh was around 800,000, and during the week of September 21st and September 27th, thousands of people across the city had claimed to see strange lights in the sky, specifically pink and red orbs flying in and around the city environs. On the outskirts of the city, in a public park referred to as the South Park, which is like, I already know the Russian reboot for South Park. It's just going to be this. And if you want to picture all the witnesses in this looking like South Park cartoon characters,
Yeah,
feel
we'll
free.
be doing that first.
Yeah, I mean, it's too late. And it kind of plays out like a South Park episode, to be honest. There were three children, Vasya Surin, Genya Blinov, and Julia Shokolova. They were playing in the park when they heard a strange whistling in the sky. Now, this story is really cool because it sounds a lot like the story that we did last month that I covered about the Flatwoods Monster. And in West Virginia. But what's funny, and the thing you have to keep in mind, and one of the reasons this story is really remarkable, is that up until this point, a lot of what was happening in Russia had been behind the Iron Curtain during the Cold War. And a lot of stuff, American stuff, movies, pop culture, didn't always make it all the way over there.
Sure.
So we tend to think of aliens and UFOs and flying saucers as a really big American phenomenon. And this was one of the first big stories to come out of the Soviet Union that showed similarities to stories that we had, but during a time when a lot of those stories really weren't making their way across. So it kind of builds an argument that these things are happening all over the world.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah, they're not like influenced by each other.
Right, and it's really cool because as you'll see, this is a really like the Flatwoods Monster, which took place in 1952, this in 1989 is another very like B-movie alien sci-fi encounter. So the kids heard this whistling in the sky, and they look up and they saw a pink orb hovering overhead about 9 meters wide, which proceeded to fly around the park. Now the kids claimed that they could see the grass ripple as the orb moved overhead and would dive down over the grass. They could see the grass rippling out like riplets in a puddle when you drop a rock in a little thing of water. And the orb flew around the park for a little bit. The kids watched it, and then it took back off into the sky. Now, the strange craft had attracted the attention of more people, and a group of about 40 to 50 locals came into the park and joined the kids that were already there.
That's a lot of eyewitnesses.
I know. This is what's so insane about this. And again, this is important. This is like a mass sighting. This isn't just like a handful of people. And as they all gathered around and talked about what had just happened and what they'd seen, the orb returned, and a rectangular portal opened, and the crowd watched in disbelief as a strange three-eyed creature peered out, scanned the crowd, and then slipped back inside the craft. The orb then turned from pink.
The fuck? I don't want to hear any more of this, man.
Pause on that just for a second.
I gotta go.
Yeah, this guy pokes his head out and he's like, "Yep, this looks like a good place." It gets weirder, guys. So the orb turns from pink to deep red as the crowd stepped back and watched the craft land on the park lawn. And they said 3 legs came out of the orb and parked right there and made indentions in the grass, which is important later. A hatch and a rampway open, and the 3-eyed creature walks down the ramp and out into the park. Now, some of the details varied in the game of telephone between the Russian press and then the St. Louis Dispatch, which would later pick up the story, and then would later be picked up by the New York Times. And in some versions of this story, there were 3 space creatures. But as we've already learned on this show, a lot of times as the game of telephone, as the stories spread, they tend to get exaggerated. Remember, like in Hopkinsville, when they had the little goblin encounters, the people at the time, the eyewitnesses said there were no more than 2 ever seen at the same time. But by the time it hit the press, there were 12. They said there were 12 or 13, and the eyewitnesses swore up and down that nope, there were definitely no more than 4 that we could count.
Right, especially in this case too, where you're translating languages. 3 eyes could have very easily been misconstrued.
Right,
to 3 creatures.
and also when the American press picks up this story and really wants to make fun of a Russian UFO story,
of course,
it can get crazy. So anyway, for the sake of being conservative and simplifying the story, we are going to only refer to there being 1 giant 3-eyed space creature.
Let's be reasonable here.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So the monster was described as being 9 feet tall, wearing a silver jumpsuit with bronze boots and a disc on his chest. He had a small dome-shaped head with 2 white eyes and a 3rd red eye on what constituted his forehead. And I have some pictures here I'm going to show you. Here's a sketch from around that time that I got off the internet of the creature.
Guy looks dope, man.
Yeah, he's like a total. He looks like he's kind of shaped like the Juggernaut from X-Men.
He's cool and tough.
And I had another picture of him here somewhere. Here's a really cool illustration of him attacking a child. Yeah,
I like it.
The space monster was also accompanied by a small, boxy robot that walked down the rampway and started moving around the park in front of all of these people. The space monster supposedly mumbled a strange phrase, and a glowing rectangle, or in some stories, a glowing triangle appeared on the ground before him. As people, he was just kind of came out. He's like, he was doing tricks for these people. He's like, he literally just kind of came down and started entertaining people. I kind of think that this guy was like some weird intergalactic magician who had been run out of his home planet and was just trying to find an audience.
He got banned for playing 3-cup,
Yeah, exactly. So he starts doing these tricks for these people. He makes a glowing rectangle and it disappears, and a triangle and it disappears, and then the creature got down on the droid and fiddled with some buttons on the droid, and he started scanning the park and walking around, and then the robot returned to the craft. Now, at this point, here's the other picture of this guy. This is my favorite one. He's pretty rad here. He totally looks like a comic. He looks like a Jack Kirby comic book character.
Totally.
Now, at this point, the stupefaction of the crowd was interrupted when one of the witnesses, a small boy, came to his senses and promptly screamed. And the space monster turned towards the boy, and witnesses claim a beam of light shot from his eyes and surrounded the kid. And then suddenly, the craft, the giant, and the robot all vanished into thin air.
Whoa, no liftoff, just
No
full
liftoff,
vanish.
just disappeared. There's a lot of vanishing in this story.
Whoa.
Like an annoying guest who doesn't know when to leave the party, the entities then rematerialized a few minutes later, and the space monster was now wielding a silver rod in his hand, which he then pointed at a different teenage boy, and to the shock and awe of the crowd, the boy disappeared. The creature and the robot then got back into the craft, and the orb flew off into the sky, And then, thankfully, the teenage boy reappeared after the craft took off.
Whoa.
Just a weird...
And this is an account of like 40 people watching this?
This is 40 to 50 people, from children to adults. And one of the things that happened when the story was run in the St. Louis Dispatch, they said only kids were there. But actually, there were a bunch of adults there, and the police came to the scene and started taking questions and investigating the park. The witnesses' accounts were written down, and one of the witnesses was actually a police lieutenant who saw the orb fly towards the park before all of this happened. Whoa. And he's been on. I saw a video with this police lieutenant being interviewed on Russian television. So this was like a really big story. Soviet scientists came out to the park and found evidence of the landing, a depression from the landing gear in the grass, and the ground beneath the grass had been allegedly turned to stone. In some reports, it was said that the Soviet scientists retrieved strange rocks that were not of this earth. A reporter named Paul Stonehill covered the story for TASS, the Soviet Information Agency newspaper. During the investigation in the story, TASS also uncovered all the eyewitness accounts that we mentioned at the top of the story of strange lights in the sky, and more eyewitness accounts of seeing strange three-eyed giants, and in some boxy robots, orbs, and then in some cases, little tiny grayish-green creatures, little men in blue robes were also seen during this time, during this whole week. The fact that this was reported in the Soviet news was significant because as communism started to collapse, state control over the press and the media loosened, and this was one of the first UFO stories that came out. And it was, like I said, one of the ones that was not only reported in the Soviet media, but also then made it over to the Western United States. And they think that one of the reasons this story took off was because the media was suddenly having so much freedom to write about whatever they wanted about.
Sure.
And so they picked kind of the wildest story to see how far that they could go.
Yeah.
But the witnesses there, and they interviewed many, and you can look up this story on YouTube, and you see people, they all swear up and down that this thing took place.
That's a wild story.
Yeah, right?
That's a good one. I've never heard that
this
one.
Never heard that.
Me either.
There's a lot of great UFO and weird creature encounters that happen in Europe and in the East that we don't really get a lot of. And I think moving forward in the next phase of the show, I'm going to start doing some more research on some of the international paranormal stuff.
I like it. That's a good move.
Yeah, right?
It's interesting, too, how these things often seem to happen around like major political events, like, you know, the men that appeared around the nuclear launches.
Yeah, this was
and
months before the Berlin Wall fell,
Yeah,
too.
which is a huge global event. You know, it's... I don't know what we'll get into it in the next segment, but it's interesting how these sort of appearances happen around these major events.
And it's weird too when you have, I mean, obviously we have so many stories of alien greys or reptilians or what they call the Nordic aliens that are like these tall blonde dreamboats. But I love the story. Totally. Show me a Venusian, and I'll show you my massive heart-on. I think that I love the stories when you get these singular type entities like the Flatwoods Monster, where their descriptions are so strange and so unique, or this three-eyed giant that don't seem to pop up again in popular culture anywhere else. But okay, so that's the story of the Voronezh alien landing. And when we come back, we're going to ask our sci-fi author, Michael Moreci, what the hell was that?
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Bryce Johnson from Bigfoot Collectors Club. Listen, if you have a paranormal story, we want to hear it. Write to BigfootCollectorsClub@gmail.com with your paranormal encounter, and we just might read it on a future episode.
And we're back, Bigfoot Collectors Club, and now it's time for our segment, What the Hell Was That?
What the hell was that?
Michael Moreci? You heard the story of the Voronezh alien landing.
I did.
And
Unbelievable.
What's your take? What's your hot take on this?
I mean, undoubtedly true.
All right, podcast over.
Yeah, great. We just proved the existence of aliens.
No, I mean, like, it's weird. You get so many of these different sightings and occurrences, and we hear it. Like, if you watch, like, the History Channel, then it's like the woman lying in bed who was frozen and paralyzed.
Ooh, tell me more.
Wait. That was something different. Wait.
Different channel.
That was the Spice Channel. Do they still have the Spice Channel?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think
Probably
so.
not. I think now it's the Game Show Network. They rebranded.
The Spice Channel just replaced with the internet.
Yeah, it's like the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue is just now every magazine. It's like Maxim and the internet.
It used to be special, guys.
Yeah. Misogyny used to come out only once a year. The male gaze used to only every March get to really express itself. Now it's just everywhere you look.
24/7.
Man.
But we digress.
So you were talking about a woman lying in bed on the History Channel?
Well, no, but it'd be like the thing, and I'm not making this up, but she'd be like, she told this story, and I've seen this a number of times. It could be a man lying in bed also, but like they'd be paralyzed and like I couldn't move, and then they get, they all of a sudden just kind of levitate toward
The window
and be in a spaceship and this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always a singular point of view. It's always a singular, account. And while they're all similar, like Michael mentioned, that story of like it's been reiterated so many times. Is it because that's like the alien procedure, or is it because like you saw it on the History Channel?
Right. That's the story.
That's the story.
And that's what I find is really unique about this, because this experience is even though it's a UFO one, it's unlike. And I mean, obviously, there's similarities, like I said, to the Flatwoods Monster in a sense, but it's so strange that it's so strange that it almost feels like the alien encounter itself is taking place in a foreign language. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally.
That the symbology and the alien and stuff are designs that are not of our American culture, which kind of to me lends some credence. And if they weren't influenced by some of the American media, that perhaps some of these instances really are affected and shaped by the people witnessing them. So like some type of psychic phenomenon is also taking place during these encounters.
Yeah.
And that perhaps whatever comes out of the orb materializes in a way that is recognizable to the sensibility of the culture that it is presenting itself to.
Yeah, that's a theme I think we keep returning to, which
Yeah.
is really interesting that's viewed through the lens of the time and the culture.
Right, and I think I tried to bring this up before, but what's the, in Harry Potter, what's the name of the creature that's in the trunk, and then when it comes out, it takes the form of whatever you're afraid of?
I know what you're talking about. They're in the class.
I want to say Patronus, but it's not.
No, the Patronus is the thing that they use to fight the your spirit kind of animal that fights the. But it's that kind. It's
Someone is sitting in their car right now screaming the name
at
of
us. You know what? Let's take a 2-second break. We'll pause so you can scream the name at us right now. Hold on. Oh,
Okay.
right. That's it. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Thank you. Sorry. But it's that kind of thing where it's almost like, I don't know if the mind, it's sort of half between a hallucination and a physical. I think that there's something really is making contact, but it's taking the form of something that will be not necessarily recognizable, but interpreted by the culture that's witnessing it.
Yeah, I mean, what's strange, there's two things I say to that. Like, one is like it kind of is reminiscent of the Zemeckis Contact film, where it's like, her father, the alien comes in the father's form because it's the form that you would understand.
Right.
But what's also cool, like if you're thinking about this from like a cultural gaze, like we're talking about, like there's a certain kind of like crossbreeding collective consciousness that you can like dig into, because like the I mean, we can't show them, but if you looked up the illustrations and
we'll put links in our show notes, and this will be up on Instagram and Facebook as this is live, so you can go hop over to our Facebook page or Instagram and see some of these pictures.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So go on. Sorry, I was just
Great plug.
plugging that so people could go see it.
Nailed it.
Give us a like while you're over there.
So no, but like it like totally rings of like Americana Silver Age sci-fi.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that B movie.
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
Of, like the day the Earth stood still kind of stuff.
Right. And then like there's like a reverse thing too, where like, like it feels like, Russia, because of whatever, Iron Curtain, culture, stuff like that, like are like 30 years behind that of America. But like if you look at like the dystopian novel, like another like sci-fi thread, there's like a Russian novel from like the 20s that's called We, that never, made it out of Russia until, years and years later, that it's like really like it's almost like, Orwell or something, or Huxley would have written it. But that was like, it's almost like there's this weird collective consciousness of like shared kind of iconography and ideas.
Characters and ideas that are happening.
Totally.
Well, and that just goes back to Joseph Campbell and his, studying all the world myths and religions,
the monomyth,
and going, the monomyth. It all these things exist in different forms all over the world throughout human history. Right. But I love it when you get one of these stories and it's just a weird ass dude coming out of a weird spaceship and just befuddling people.
Well, the fact this one too, that there's physical evidence left behind, verified by government scientists. I mean, that's not to be overlooked. That's,
right. And I think that we tend to be very skeptic when we go, well, but it's
Russians.
Yeah, but it was so this was coming at it, hitting like Time Magazine wrote a piece about it at the time, and then they revisited it 25 years later. And at the time, Time Magazine was kind of making fun of this, and they chalked it up to just being a fake story that TASS ran because they could, because no one had control over them. But that doesn't explain the fact that they have this was all over the Soviet media, and there are eyewitnesses who have been interviewed and reporters who interviewed the eyewitnesses, and it wasn't just this story in the park. It was stories that were that whole week of seeing strange lights and stuff in the sky. So I think that the skeptic tends to go, it's just a bunch of bullshit. But there's something to it when you get down, as we've learned on this podcast, when you get down to the personal level and talk to eyewitnesses and talk to people who have seen things. No one can tell you, Michael, that you didn't see repeatedly some old-timey carnival barker. And, as weird and as strange as that is, you saw it multiple times. They're in the same location. It's very easy for somebody else who did not have that experience to brush it off.
Right.
So, we'll never know exactly what happened in that park. But if you had to take a guess, what would you say happened definitively?
Oh, I think it's as described, I think that like something landed. I think something came out, and like, there's certain degree of like you can chalk it up to a hoax, but I think that like passes that degree when you start making teenagers disappear.
Good point.
Yeah, and I tried to find like that teenage, the problem with this story is
for a second I thought you were going to say you're trying to find that teenager.
I try to find that teenager.
That Russian teen.
We've more got him on the line. It's Sergey, can you hear us? Where did you go, Sergey, for those brief moments? I've tried to find. I mean, what's worse is I was actually saying I was trying to find a teenage boy. But really, aren't we all trying to find the teenage boy within ourselves? But I couldn't find any story or any interviews with that guy. So perhaps that's part of the exaggeration as the story grew. But that's the kind of thing. It's like I want to talk to that guy and find out what happened and what he went through when he vanished in thin air.
Totally. What's your take on like where this if so, this is a visitor that's come and landed. Do you think that it's someone who's traveled across the distances of space? Because that, that presents the big problem of everything is so far apart. Or do you think it's more of like an interdimensional thing? Or is it someone who's actually from this planet to begin with and we just don't know about them? Or what's your take on that?
That's a good question.
And UFOs in general.
Just answer all of these now.
Just let us know what's going on.
You're a science fiction writer. We know you have the answers.
Okay, guys, I'll tell you. Okay. Just don't tell anyone else.
We know we're communicating with an alien species from a different planet. They're the ones giving you all the information for your stories. We want to hear about it now.
Sometimes I want no. No, I mean, like, yeah, I think like it's so complicated because like the idea of like that travel from vast distances is like, from our viewpoint, is so impossible. Like, there's no way. Right. But like interdimensional travel is just as impossible. Or like, yet. Not
give us but like I always say, give a species a million-year jump start on us. They can figure it out.
It's like Grandpa always said.
It's like Grandpa always said, you give a species a million-year jump start? Man, they're zooming all over this galaxy. That thing pointed a rod at me, and I ended up at a Wendy's at 2 a.m., up to my knees in chicken nuggets.
Checks out. Should have your grandpa on the show.
Oh, yeah.
My grandpa's dead.
Sorry.
Let's try to get him on the show. That would actually really help. Oh, no. So you think this is taking a face value? I mean, I think at the end of the day, we have to take some of these stories at face value.
Yeah.
And whether you choose to believe it or not is up to you.
Yeah. Are all the details totally right?
Probably not.
But something happened.
Right.
Like, something happened, and it's you look at these stories, and I always think to myself, it's like, well, there's 1,000 of these stories, alien encounters, being beamed to a ship, whatever, but like it just takes one to be right, and that's it. That blows the whole thing wide open. So
true.
Is one of them right? I think so.
And I kind of like that these encounters sort of support the idea that the aliens don't care about landing on the White House lawn. They're not interested. I know, jeez.
If you guys wouldn't mind, though, if any of you are listening.
I mean, that they're just sort of, I like that they tend to interact with just everyday people.
Yeah, and sort of non-malevolently.
Yeah.
He's doing magic tricks with his
I mean,
wand.
honestly,
Yeah,
most of
it's
these
nice.
stories don't have much of they don't tend to be alien attacks. Now, like I said, you could say that pointing a magic rod at somebody, making them disappear, is an attack, but I think it's a magic trick.
He came back.
It's a trick. He came back.
Yeah,
No one was
exactly.
hurt. Well,
Exactly.
anyway, all right. Well, we will be back in just a moment with our final segment for the episode, the Collector's Corner.
Hey guys, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Bigfoot Collectors Club and on Twitter at Bigfoot_C Club.
And we're back, and it's time for Collector's Corner.
Yay.
Now, Michael, this is the Bigfoot Collectors Club, and we always ask our guest, beyond collecting stories, what do you collect?
I collect, let's see, Star Wars figures, obviously.
You're in good company.
Yeah, we've shared a lot of.
Yeah, we've shared some shelf porn, as they call it.
We've shared some self porn. Yes. Yeah.
Which is somehow worse than real porn. It sounds way worse, way dirtier.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, look at my Black Series Hera.
Like, look at my Star Wars shelf. It's so beautiful.
Texting at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
It's like, who is that? It's like, it's West Coast time, it's only 11. It's fine.
So you're in a Star Wars figures. Do you collect the vintage stuff or the new Black Series 6-inch stuff?
That's basically all I collect is like
Black
the vintage.
Series 6-inch also.
Yes, right on
Sounds
the old
worse.
shelf porn.
Oh, no. It's the Lando exclusive.
No.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Do you collect old books too?
No, I'm not really particular about my books. Like, I like to have the Star Wars books in all
Yeah.
hardcover. I collect books just in general. Like, I like to have physical books.
Yeah.
I like to collect. I'm getting back into building up my RPG collection.
cool.
Like, I just tracked down through a friend, through actually like this fan, like found out that how much I liked Hero Quest.
Oh wow!
And I used to have the game. I used to have that board game when I was a kid. And it's when I was telling a friend today. It's like my mom like kept everything of my stuff.
Wow,
That's so awesome. Good job, Mom.
Except like the things like the Zon series, that's gone. My Hero Quest game, that's gone. She's got like my like Flintstones movie tie-in McDonald's cup. But like,
some people really want that.
Yeah, I mean that's like at least $2 on
So
eBay.
who's
Good
this,
intention, questionable taste.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, a quick follow-up question: who is this stalker sending you gifts?
Oh, he has to be anonymous. He's a good dude. He's
I'm just
supported
teasing,
me.
stalker. I hope you're listening, and I don't mean any of it.
But no, he sent me that, so I was able to get that. I'm trying to like build up some RPG stuff. I'm getting back into D&D, so I'm like, oh, I gotta go.
Did you play the old? Was it West End that did the original Star Wars role-playing game? Was that TSR? What was it?
I think it was West End. Yeah. I've never played the original, but they re-released the book recently, and I want to get it.
And that's where that was the first time that they actually gave character names to the guys like Hammerhead and Walrus Man. Was it? I think Pablo Hidalgo from Lucasfilm. Didn't he name all of those, or was he working for them yet?
I'm not
This
sure.
is a real deep cut, guys. But that was kind of cool that they suddenly gave them all those little action figures that we had growing up. Then they really started to expand the universe. I have a bunch of the paperbacks from the old Star Wars EU. I got rid of a bunch, but then I kept the ones that had really cool painted covers, like wraparound painted covers.
Nice.
Because they all kind of look like that. I think even Drew Struzan did some for like the Han Solo trilogy books.
Yeah.
And they're just really cool. I keep them for the art because it's you don't see those published anywhere else anymore. No. There's a lot of really cool old school painted art before Photoshop came out of awesome Star Wars stuff. So I keep all the ones with the cool art, and then I have a hardback collection of all the new canon stuff. I tried to collect all the new canon, and now it's just gotten already too out of control. So I've had to narrow my focus. You can't be a completist anymore.
No.
You can't be a completist anymore. Grandpa, go back to heaven.
Take your nuggets.
Get your nuggets. Finish those nuggets, Grandpa.
No, you can't, but I mean, I love those like Star Wars, a lot of sci-fi fantasy books, those like 70s and 80s, like, had tremendously talented artists working on them. Those covers were just awesome.
Did you ever read any of Philip Jose Farmer? You Philip Jose Farmer fans? Did you ever read Tarzan Alive?
No.
Oh, dude, you've got to read those books.
Really?
Yeah, he's kind of one of these guys that was the first. He was writing he actually had a whole other career. I think he was like a social worker for like 30 or 40 years. And then in the 60s, he started submitting to short story publications for science fiction, and he took off. And he was one of the first guys that really started the shared universe concept for Victorian characters.
Oh.
So he took the original Edgar Rice Burroughs Tarzan and recontextualized it as if Tarzan had been a real person, and Edgar Rice Burroughs, the book that he wrote, was based on that guy.
Okay.
And so one of his first books was called Tarzan Alive, where he, the author, supposedly meets the real Tarzan in a hotel in like London, and he's immortal for reasons that we find out later. And he interviews him about his life and about the Edgar Rice Burroughs book and what he got right and what he got wrong. And it all ties into the Wold Newton universe, which actually Alan Moore borrowed heavily from for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh man!
And the Wold Newton universe is this awesome concept that he came up with that it was based on a real meteorite that landed outside Wold Newton in county in England, and he wrote a story that there was a carriage passing by when the meteorite hit, and in the carriage were like Elizabeth Bennet's parents from Pride and Prejudice and the Greystokes from Tarzan, and like the guy who became the Scarlet Pimpernel, and they were all embedded with this radiation that gave them like just almost superhuman abilities, and then they passed that lineage along throughout the 20th century, and it's really in depth and real. And then other writers have written in to build on the Wold Newton universe model.
Okay.
And some of it's real dry. Some of it is really just Philip Jose Farmer trying to like rewrite stuff to justify how it fits into his fiction, into the shared universe.
Okay.
And it's real geeky. But fun, and then some of them are just really cool science fiction, fantasy, pulp. It's all pulp novels.
Oh man,
You gotta check it out. Yeah, you look up Wold Newton, anything Wold Newton, Philip Jose Farmer. I recommend, even though some people would say don't start with this one because it's kind of it kind of concludes a lot of the Tarzan stuff. But Time's Last Gift is a really cool sci-fi story.
Okay, great.
So check that one out. I really recommend that one. Cool. Well, we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're very busy having a book signing today at Book Soup. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you missed it. It's too late.
Blew it.
But where can people find Black Star Renegades, and what other stuff is coming out that you want people to know about?
You can find Black Star Renegades anywhere. It's Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Audible, any, local bookstores. Anywhere. You can find, I have the new book Wasted Space coming out in April.
And that's with Vault.
That's with
Comics.
Vault Comics, yeah. And then Black Star Renegades 2 is next year.
Cool. And you're on Twitter, Instagram. Where can people find you?
Just at MICHAEL MORECI.
Awesome. That's pretty simple, I guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I forgot. I do have a collectible today to share.
Something special for the group.
I did. And this one is sort of a cheat, but I have my copy of Black Star Renegades, and I'm going to ask Mr. Moreci to sign for me. I have a pen too, so we'll do that after.
Oh, we got a Sharpie. We're doing this live on.
Yeah, all right. Oh, great. Yeah. Riley, while he's doing that, do you have anything you want to plug for our listening audience?
I'm not real heavy on the internet, but if you want to see some very artful photos of garbage, you can check out my Instagram at #trashbag#. That's it, though. That's the only social media I do. Just photos of garbage.
I thought that was a joke.
No, it's literally photos of garbage. Yeah, they're nice. It's nice garbage.
Yeah,
it's thoughtful, provocative garbage.
They're nice photos of garbage.
Yeah, either way.
Do you ever go to like rich neighborhoods and take pictures of rich people garbage?
Rich people have the best garbage.
Yeah, it's just like gold chunks just sitting.
Just wads of cash and diamonds.
Old money they don't need anymore that they throw out.
This money's dirty.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening, guys. We are so thankful that you're listening to the show, and we appreciate all of your likes and comments on our Facebook page, Bigfoot Collectors Club, and Instagram. You can find us on Twitter, Bigfoot_C Club, and please keep listening. Keep writing into BigfootCollectorsClub@gmail.com. We'll read your emails on our next Listener Files episode, which is coming up very soon. Thank you so much. Thanks again to Michael.
Oh, thank you.
Check out his book, Black Star Renegades. I think you're really going to love it. If you like this show, I think you're really going to enjoy Michael's work. So please go out, support this author. He's really great. He believes in ghosts. He believes in UFOs. He's one of us. Okay, guys? Riley, thank you for stepping in the co-captain's chair.
My pleasure.
That basically meant that I'm the captain, and now I have to talk to Bryce about that. I apologize. There's not one captain. They're both co-captain chairs. You know, they sit next to each other on the bridge of our starship, Bigfoot. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye-bye.